Dating with toxic people can be a challenge, but there are smart strategies to help you deal with the situation effectively. Here are 9 such ways. 1. Setting boundaries with toxic people is like creating your own protective shield that helps protect your emotional well-being and self-worth. It is a process that begins with you determining where your personal comfort zone ends and what behavioral norms you are willing to accept in your life. Sometimes we encounter people whose behavior or comments cause discomfort or even negative emotions. In such situations, it is important to understand that we have the right to protect ourselves and our boundaries. This may include identifying what types of communication or behavior you find inappropriate and clearly expressing your expectations for interacting with those people. For example, if someone constantly criticizes you or makes offensive remarks, you can clearly and confidently tell them that such behavior is unacceptable to you and ask them to stop. This can be difficult, especially if you are afraid of conflict or don't want to offend the person, but remember that your well-being is most important. When you set boundaries with toxic people, it not only protects you from negative influences, but also helps you build your self-esteem and confidence. Additionally, it is also a way to show others that you value and respect yourself and expect the same from others. 2. Maintaining emotional distance when interacting with toxic people is like wearing an invisible cloak that protects your inner balance. When you encounter negative emotions or hateful comments, it's important to remember that it doesn't necessarily reflect your personality or values. It could be that a toxic person is simply going through their own struggles or emotional problems and their behavior has nothing to do with you personally. Maintaining emotional distance involves learning to separate yourself from the emotional impact of a toxic person. This doesn't mean you need to suppress your feelings or ignore your emotions, but rather learn not to take them personally. You can think of yourself as an observer, observing what is happening but not becoming emotionally involved. This can be difficult to practice, especially if you are a sensitive and empathetic person. However, learning to maintain emotional distance helps you maintain your inner strength and confidence. You can maintain your emotional balance even if there is chaos or negative emotions around you. And remember that taking care of yourself and your emotional well-being is most important. If you feel like you're having a hard time maintaining emotional distance or that you're constantly being attacked by toxic people, don't hesitate to seek help from friends, family, or a mental health professional. 3. Use the gray stone technique. Imagine that you are wearing armor that is impervious to the arrows of toxic words and negative emotions. This is the gray stone technique, the ability to remain calm and unshakable in the face of the attacks of toxicity around. This metaphor reminds us that it is important not to take the negative comments or emotions of a toxic person personally. Instead of giving them power over your emotional state, you can imagine yourself as a stone that does not absorb the energy of toxicity, but lets it pass by. The gray stone technique requires practice and self-control. It consists of not reacting to the provocations or insults of a toxic person, but remaining calm and unperturbed. This does not mean that you should ignore their behavior, but rather treat it with understanding and compassion, without allowing it to affect your emotional state. Using the gray stone technique requires concentration and inner strength from you. You can visualize yourself as an unshakable rock that stands still even in the face of a storm. This helps you maintain your inner strength and self-confidence without succumbing to the provocation or manipulation of a toxic person. Ultimately, the gray stone technique is a way to protect yourself from the negative influences of toxic people and maintain your emotional well-being. It is a tool that helps you remain steadfast and confident in any circumstance. 4. Use positive language. Imagine that you are a master in the art of redirecting conversations from negative or stressful topics to lighter and more positive ones. This is using positive language when interacting with toxic people. Using positive language is not only a way to relieve tension and distance yourself from negative emotions, but also an opportunity to create an atmosphere of positive interaction. Instead of becoming confrontational or getting into a disagreement, you can skillfully redirect the conversation to more pleasant and constructive topics. For example, if a toxic person starts criticizing you or expressing negative opinions, you can respond by focusing on something positive or pleasant. For example, I understand that you have your points, but let's move on to something more cheerful. How was your week? Using positive language allows you to maintain control of the situation and create an atmosphere of politeness and understanding. It also helps you avoid getting caught up in a negative cycle and maintain your emotional balance. However, it is important to remember that using positive language does not mean ignoring problems or denying your feelings. It is rather a way to manage the situation and move on to more productive and constructive communication. 5. Practice empathy. Imagine yourself standing on a bridge between the world of toxicity and the world of understanding. This is the use of empathy when interacting with toxic people. Applying empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes and understand what may be causing their negative behavior. This is especially important with toxic people, as their behavior is often related to their own emotional problems or difficulties. When you can see the world through another person's eyes, it helps you better understand their motives and emotional state. For example, a toxic person may be aggressive or critical because of their own fears or insecurities. By understanding this, you can learn to approach his behavior with compassion and tolerance. Using empathy also helps you avoid confrontation and develop more constructive and empathic relationships with toxic people. When you understand that a person may be experiencing difficulties or suffering, it helps you to be more tolerant and understanding of their behavior. However, it is important to remember that practicing empathy does not mean endorsing or supporting toxic behavior. It is rather a way to connect with another person on a deeper level and create an atmosphere of mutual understanding and mutual assistance. When you use empathy in your interactions with toxic people, you open the door to a more empathetic and peaceful coexistence. 6. Stay solutions-focused. Imagine that you are a magician who turns negativity into positive experiences. This is the use of humor when interacting with toxic people. The use of humor is the ability to find the bright side of a situation even in the most unpleasant moments. When you can laugh at yourself or find the funny aspects of what is happening, it helps you diffuse tense situations and shift the focus from the negative to the positive. For example, if a toxic person begins to criticize you or express their negative views, you can try to respond with humor or irony. It could be something like, "Yes, my life is like a comedy, and today you are in the role of the evil main villain. How does this role suit you?" Using humor helps you avoid taking the toxic person's negative comments or behavior too personally. It also allows you to maintain your inner strength and self-confidence without being provoked or manipulated. In addition, using humor can create an atmosphere of ease and understanding when dealing with toxic people. When you can laugh together at difficult or ridiculous situations, it helps relieve tension and establish a friendlier, calmer relationship. However, it is important to remember that the use of humor should be appropriate and unobtrusive. This does not mean mocking others or making jokes at their expense, but rather finding the bright side of a situation and sharing it with others. 7. Seek support internally and externally. Imagine that you are an explorer traveling through the vastness of your inner world in search of treasures. This is the practice of self-knowledge in interaction with toxic people. The practice of self-awareness is the ability to be aware of your emotions, thoughts, and reactions to interactions with toxic people. When you can carefully observe your inner world, it helps you better understand yourself and your reactions to negative influences from the outside. For example, when you feel your mood changing after meeting a toxic person, you may wonder, why did this happen? The answer to this question may reveal many interesting things about your inner world, including your fears, vulnerabilities, and needs. Practicing self-discovery also helps you develop your emotional intelligence and personal development. When you can analyze your thoughts and feelings, it helps you make more informed and constructive decisions about how to respond to toxic situations. However, it is important to remember that the practice of self-discovery takes time, patience, and practice. It's not always easy or pleasant to address your inner struggles and vulnerabilities, but it is an important step towards self-understanding and personal growth. When you practice self-discovery in your interactions with toxic people, you discover new perspectives in your inner world and become stronger and more confident. It helps you become more resilient to negative outside influences and create more harmonious and healthy relationships with yourself and others. So, dealing with toxic people is an art that requires patience, empathy, and a strategic approach. No matter how difficult the situation, you have a set of smart tools to help you meet the challenge. Be vigilant, protect your boundaries, and stay true to yourself. And remember that every difficult situation is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery.